Welcome to Hazfans Unlimited Gaming. Do you feel it in the air? The anticipation of the Switch 2? It's so close. Here it comes. But before we switch to greener pastures, let's take a look back at the loyal Switch that has brought us this far in a console retrospective as we give you 50 facts about the Switch. Here's to you, Switch. During the early stages of development, the Switch was initially known as the NX. Probably for the best that it was renamed because the Nintendo X sounds like some Rule 34 site where you would see Mario's pepperonis. Development of the Nintendo Switch actually started as far back as 2012, with the general manager of entertainment at Nintendo stating in an interview that by the end of 2013, Nintendo decided that the Switch had to have detachable Joy-Cons and that it would have to be designed in such a way that it could be played on the go and on TV. The Nintendo Switch was first announced in October 2016, releasing in March 2017. On release, the console cost $299.99. Oh, how we yearn for the return of that golden age. Upon initial release, the Switch did not come bundled with any games. The president of Nintendo America said this was to keep the pricing of the Switch at the $300 mark, believing that straying from this would harm sales of the console. At time of launch, the only variation on Switch options was a choice between gray Joy-Cons and the red and blue Joy-Cons. Within the first week of release, the Nintendo Switch sold 1.5 million units, currently sitting at a total of 150.86 million units sold as of a report released by Nintendo in February 2025. That's a lot of Switcheroonies! The success in sales of the Nintendo Switch is no doubt in part thanks to the marketing for the innovative console. In December 2016, a few months before the console's release, the Nintendo of America's president Reggie Fils-Aimé appeared on Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show, having Jimmy Fallon play some Breath of the Wild to show off the console. As well as this, after the gameplay demonstration, the show cut to Shigeru Miyamoto playing a rendition of the Super Mario Bros. Theme with Fallon's in-house band, The Roots. The shirt that Miyamoto wore for the live orchestration featured a graphic of Mario in the samurai outfit seen in Super Mario Odyssey, causing some speculation reporting at the time of Miyamoto wearing a crazy-looking Super Mario shirt. Of course, now we know why Mario's dressed like a Japanese feudal lord. The Nintendo Switch became the fastest-selling console in the US within the first 10 months, selling over 10 million units in this time according to the Nintendo of America Twitter, or X account, or whatever Elon is calling it now. The Nintendo Switch comes in third place in terms of all-time console sales, falling behind the Nintendo DS at second and the PlayStation 2 taking first place. This secures the first Switch a place in a prestigious top 3 with some classic consoles. While the Switch did not have an official launch in China until December 2019, many people in China had been able to get their hands on a Switch by buying from elsewhere such as Hong Kong. However, due to China not having Switch Online capabilities, gamers in China couldn't fully enjoy games with online features until official release in China. I can only imagine the flood of new players as children playing Mario Kart got swarmed with. Some of the launch titles for the Switch include 1-2 Switch, Just Dance 2017, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, and, of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was initially released on the Wii U, a console that was something of a commercial failure, selling only 13.56 million units in its lifetime. Unlike other Nintendo console releases, the Nintendo Switch didn't have a Mario game title at launch. The only other Nintendo console to not have a Mario game on launch was the Wii, which launched with Wii Sports and brought us the chaos of waggling Wiimotes wildly and, of course, that epic music. All Nintendo fans probably remember the iconic opening of Breath of the Wild, emerging from the confined cave before walking into a new world, the camera panning out to tease all of the possibilities of this new console and the beautiful graphics it boasts. Despite this, Breath of the Wild doesn't even reach the top 3 of the best-selling Switch games. In third, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate released in 2018 and allowing all of us to beat the ever-living daylights out of each other. In second place, despite a later release, is Animal Crossing New Horizons. Its high sales figures of 47.44 million units may have something to do with the fact the year it was released, 2020, was the year of the incident. Being trapped indoors and ordered not to go outside lends well to a cozy island game where you do menial chores, talk to fuzzy animal friends, and pay off a raccoon with a monopoly on your deserted island. Coming in first place with the most units sold at a whopping 67.35 million units sold is, of course, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which was released 2 months after the Switch in May of 2017. We can only assume that Mario Kart World will beat these numbers, seeing as you can race around as a cow. Oh yeah! Over the past 8 years, the Switch has been the home to a total of 12,424 games, both as physical releases and software only, with the Switch being a popular console for indie games found on the Nintendo Store. The nature of Switch acting as both a console and a handheld device makes it perfect for some of the best indie games available, from fighting your way through the underworld. The nature of the Switch acting as both a console and handheld device makes it perfect for some of the best indie games available, from fighting your way through the underworld in Hades, on the big screen, to grabbing your Switch in handheld mode for a game of Balatro, to watch your multiplier rise to absurd levels. This versatile little console has indeed served us well through many adventures. In total, the Switch saw the release of 21 Mario games on the system, being center stage for many an adventure from our favorite Japanese-made Italian man. From exploring the world in a hat ship, to teaming up with the Rabbids, and even taking some time out for some tennis. With improved graphics of the Nintendo Switch came the prime opportunity to remaster some beloved games. Nintendo remastered a total of 19 games for the Switch, including the Pikmin games and Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. As well as this, 12 games were remade for the Switch, the most notable probably being Super Mario RPG and Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. If you happen to get a Switch Pro controller, then there may be a secret message from Nintendo that you've left unread. If you move down the right joystick, then you'll be able to spy the message, thanks to all game fans hidden here. Oh, Nintendo! In September 2019, Nintendo launched the Nintendo Switch Lite, a dedicated handheld version of the Switch that cost $199. Special edition versions of the Switch Lite released as well, such as the Dialga and Palkia edition and the Hyrule edition. Due to the fact that the Switch Lite did not have detachable Joy-Cons like the main console, some games were incompatible with the console without additional Joy-Con controllers being bought, such as 1-2 Switch, Super Mario Party, and Just Dance. With Joy-Cons costing $79.99, you'd likely be paying more for those than the game you wanted to play in the first place. As well as this, Nintendo also released an OLED model of the Switch in October 2021 for $349.99 at launch. The console boasted a 7-inch OLED screen and a new design for the dock, which has more of a resemblance to the newly designed dock for Switch 2. The Switch has had many special edition consoles released. Some examples including the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Edition Switch OLED, the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLED, the Splatoon 3 Switch OLED, and the Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch. The Switch OLED wasn't actually the first console to use an OLED screen. Before this, the much overlooked PS Vita used an OLED screen for their handheld console. Such a beautiful little machine, maybe one day we'll talk about the Vita. The Nintendo Switch launched with the Nintendo Online feature, a subscription service costing $20 a year that allows players to access online play and online cloud saving. Nintendo Switch Online users were also given access to an app with a library of NES games. In September 2019, an app that allowed access to SNES games was added. In October 2021, a Nintendo Switch Online expansion option was announced, costing $49.99 a year and including free access to DLC for Nintendo games and apps to play a selection of games for the Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, and the Sega Genesis. The Nintendo Switch actually has a game hidden in the system for you to discover. Well, it did until the 4.0.0 update in December 2017. But prior to this update, the 1984 NES game Golf was hidden in the code for the Switch. Golf was left in the code for the Switch as a tribute to its creator, Satoru Iwata, who died 11th July 2015. In order to access the golf game with the Switch, the system clock had to be set to July 11th, the same day Iwata died. But you couldn't just change the system clock, because if your Switch was ever connected to the internet, even if you put the system into offline mode, it would be wise to this trick. Due to this, and the fact that the Easter egg was taken out in an update, with Golf being moved to the NES library, console owners only had one shot at this secret. The next steps to being able to activate Golf once July 11th rolled around was to perform Iwata's famous gesture using the Joy-Cons, this being where he struck both his hands out towards the audience. Another little Easter egg involved in the Switch that we didn't even notice until writing this retrospective is involved in waking your Switch from sleep mode. Most of us mash the A button when asked to press the button 3 times to turn on the Switch, listening to the familiar trio of clicks. But if you push the joystick or bumper buttons instead, the noises change to ribbiting, clown horns, or even cymbals. Give it a try next time you boot up your Switch. During the Nintendo Switch's launch presentation, it was announced that the Switch would not use region locking games, making the Switch the first console released by Nintendo to not use region locking. The Joy-Cons of the Switch are probably the smallest controllers that you can get your hands on, and we have gamers to thank for that. While developing the Switch system, feedback from Wii-era consoles was considered in the design of the controllers. Comments from players of Wii Sports stating that the remote should be smaller and should be able to attach to a player's leg, sparking inspiration for the Joy-Cons. Action on the advice of being able to attach the Joy-Cons to the player's body was clearly taken with the Switch, as games such as Ring Fit Adventure and Nintendo Switch Sports allowed the Joy-Con to be strapped to the player's body to register movement input when playing games. At least this time there's less chance of breaking a window because your Wii strap isn't on. Ah, dang nabbit! Speaking of Ring Fit Adventure, this was another game that actually benefited from the pandemic somewhat, as due to gyms closing in response to the virus. Many people turned to Ring Fit Adventure as a way to keep up their exercise routine during end times, with shortages of the game seeing as online sellers charging $220 for the game that originally sold for $80. Jeez, these gym bros mean business. While the Wii U was an undeniable flop for Nintendo, the console needed to walk so the Switch could run. The president of Nintendo of America made it clear that the feedback from the Wii U of players wanting to be able to use the handheld console on the go, but being unable to due to not being able to go farther than 8 meters from the console, led Nintendo to focus on creating a console that could be both a portable handheld system and one that could connect to a television. During development of the Switch, 5 different prototypes of the console were considered. The differences between most of these were the way in which the Joy-Cons connected to the console, with one prototype involving the Joy-Cons attaching using magnets. Clearly, Nintendo were cooking with that one before they realized, seeing as this design was used in the Switch 2. Who here remembers Nintendo Labo? In an ambitious move, Nintendo launched Nintendo Labo, kits of build-your-own accessories that were then used to play exclusive games intended for the kids. While these kits seemed like a fun mashup of Lego and Nintendo Fun, after 4 kits, Nintendo Labo didn't pick up much traction, most likely due to the lack of replayability for the games. One of the available Nintendo Labo kits was a VR headset. However, this kit was panned with the harshest criticism. And, despite some games offering VR sections, Nintendo didn't release any games with a full VR experience following the launch of the VR Labo. I'm sure many among us remember lovingly crafting our friends as horrendous caricatures of themselves using the Mii Maker on the Wii, and throwing your creations around the Mii Plaza. But unfortunately, this feature was absent from the Switch. While the Wii Maker is still available on the Switch, this is regulated to when you're creating your profile image. The Mii Maker also has no theme music and no option for a Mii Plaza. We can only hope the Switch 2 reintroduces this. The lack of a more robust Mii Maker is made up for in part by the release of Miitopia on the Switch, the game originally only being on the 3DS. The game includes more options for makeup and wigs than is offered on the Mii Maker, and adds a few new features to the game not seen in the 3DS version, such as a horse and an extra dungeon. The Switch saw a plethora of new accessories, one of these being a Pokeball controller that could be used with Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee, depending on which cute little mascot is your favorite. to make you feel like you're really in Kanto capturing tiny animals. The Pokeball controller came with a Mew that you could use in-game. While developing the Switch, Nintendo considered implementing a cloud gaming feature. For those who don't know what this is, basically streaming games from a server without needing to have them downloaded. In the end, local processing power was made the priority for the console. However, a handful of games were released as cloud gaming experiences rather than downloads, such as Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix, Square Root of Pi Dream Drop Distance, and Hitman 3. But it's not confirmed yet if this will be implemented on the Switch 2. If you can't afford a Switch 2, then never fear. New game titles will still release on Switch 1 and 2 for a while, such as Pokemon ZA, which will have a Switch 1 release at the end of 2025. Additional titles that are confirmed to launch on the original Switch are Rhythm Heaven Groove and Tomodachi Life: Living the Dream, both of which are set to release in 2026. Switch 1 enthusiasts can be relieved in the knowledge that they too will be able to create Miis of their favorite characters and see their forbidden ships come to life in-game. The Alistair X Squidward shippers can live their dreams in peace. The Nintendo Switch brought back a fan-favorite game that we haven't seen since the DS days. The cool kids will know what I'm talking about here. Obviously, it's Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training. Puzzles from previous games appear, as well as ones that use the gyroscope and IR sensor functionality of the Switch. And of course, we get to see the handsome mug of Dr. Kawashima again. As I'm sure many of you have noticed, the Switch has recently had an update that has introduced virtual game cards ahead of the release of the Switch 2. The virtual game cards act like physical cards, giving you the ability to eject them from the current console to be played on another. Or, if you have a Nintendo Family account, the same can be done to share the virtual game card with other profiles on the account. Well, that's it folks, 50 facts about the original Switch. An innovative little machine that brought us whimsy on both the big screen and in our hands, while suffering commuting and family gatherings. We'll remember the hours of entertainment that Mario provided while traveling the world, or from Link torturing Koroks, saving Hyrule. So far, Nintendo has promised us releases of games, such as Mario Kart World, that debuts on the Switch 2 on June 5th, and Donkey Kong Bonanza coming in July. But we're looking forward to seeing what else is to come with the new console. Like the video, be sure to hit that like button and ring-a-ding that bell. There's plenty of other consoles we could cover, so if you'd like more videos like this, or know some interesting facts that we missed, then let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Hazfans Unlimited Gaming, and if you'll excuse us, we have some very important work to attend to.
Mom said it's my turn on the Switch. Give it here, come on man.